Hello everybody and welcome back to This Thing We're Doing, aka TTWD. I'm joined with my co-host Alan, as I am also named Nick. Today, we're talking about the Sonic the Hedgehog OVA. So, Alan, tell me, what do you think about this OVA?
Well, I enjoyed it to say the least. It was a very interesting watch, and it was pretty decent for an original animation. The animation style is extremely nostalgic for me especially. In particular, it's reminiscent of the Super Mario show, which kind of makes sense. Like, both of them were created in the same timeline, in the same era of sorts. And, of course, the cheap animation as well added to the nostalgia factor as well, which I'll be talking about once we move on to one of our special additions to this episode. But yeah, I really enjoyed Sonic's interpretation in Sonic OVA. I'm not a big fan of Sonic. I enjoy Sonic, right? Enjoyed Sonic as a kid, but his portrayal was pretty cool. It was really nice to watch. And all the other characters interpreted were pretty different from like what I understood as a kid, because Knuckles in the Sonic OVA seemed a bit nicer than usual from what I remember from Sonic games and such. But you can add to that if you have any thoughts. It was also short in a way. And while I do appreciate its short length, which is enough time for me to review it, I feel like by the end of the OVA, I kind of wanted to watch more just to see how the story would progress. Kind of made me wish that there was a sequel to this. And also cat people, because everybody loves cat people.
Now, Alan, I've got a surprise for you.
Oh yes?
In my younger days, when I was a youth, I was probably one of the worst things that can ever exist on this planet. I was a Sonic fan. So when I die, I'm definitely heading below the 7th level of hell. I don't know what awaits for me there. Maybe some Sonic fan fiction, maybe some Sonic sex, especially when I made you search that up in class that one time. Multiple times even. However, one of the... I won't say this was a good thing. Basically, I found this movie when I was like 8 years old. I was just scrolling on YouTube and I found, oh shit, there's a Sonic movie. And I liked it. And of course, because I was an 8-year-old. And yeah, some history behind this. This was not actually a movie when it released. So at the time that this came out, the Sonic franchise was maybe like 4 or 5 years old. And there's multiple different interpretations of all of these characters, well, except the ones like Sarah and the Owl and the President.
Right.
Those guys exist exclusively in this. The franchise was kind of a bit of a mess, like continuity timeline wise. There was like 2 TV shows happening with different tones, both from America. There was a fucking manga series that came out like in 1991, which was completely separate from the 2 cartoons. And then there was like 2 or 3 different comic book lines, each with different interpretations as well. So everything was just like a complete mess. And you've got everything from this era, you kind of got to take it as like, unless it's like a game, you've kind of got to take it as like its own standalone thing. But pretty much in 1996, when this came out, basically in Japan, they've got like a thing called original video animations, which OVA, and a lot of the time they were used as like, I guess, TV show pilots. Fooly Cooly was an OVA as well, but it didn't really lead to anything else until like 20 years later. But usually they're like short series, I guess. And in this case, allegedly, it was meant to lead to a whole cartoon show with all these characters and a whole expanded world. And these 2, this movie, quote unquote, was meant to be like a pilot, 2 pilot episodes. And it got localized in 1999, around the time that Sonic first came into 3D, which is why they decided to call it a movie and just smush the 2 episodes together and like make it a whole big thing. And my final bit of trivia, that intro that I just showed you, the Sonic CD intro, was actually the basis for it. Like, a lot of inspiration came from that intro and put into this. You can especially see it with like the way Sonic is drawn, the way like he emotes and expresses himself, even the way he runs and stuff is very reminiscent of that. But all of that to say, I think that this piece of media is a bit of a mess, but I like it.
Yeah.
I definitely... Well, I'm not an 8-year-old anymore, so I think I can look at this a bit more critically, especially because I don't have like the same love for the Sonic franchise anymore. But I'll start off with the positives. I really like the animation, even like you can tell they took some shortcuts at some points, but like overall, I think everything is really pretty in this, especially the backgrounds. The backgrounds are some of my favorite like aspects of this. A lot of old 90s anime had like these painted backgrounds and like simple character designs. So like a lot of these backgrounds are very dynamic. There's a lot of different elements to it that make it stand out compared to like what you would see nowadays.
And to add to the positives, like one of the things that I liked, your comment about the background reminded me of this, but I really enjoyed the soundtrack for the Sonic OVA. I'm not sure if it's original because I heard like claims that it was taken out of games of sorts. I couldn't verify it, but there's that. I really enjoyed the soundtrack for the Sonic OVA.
Definitely. I think it is original for this. I'll play it in the video when I'm editing. But one of my favorite songs is the South Island theme. It's the song that plays like right after the opening title when the owl is going to the island. Oh yeah, that's another thing about the backgrounds I want to mention. Or I guess just like the set pieces in general. Like I really like how creative they are. Like how Sonic lives on just like this deserted island in the middle of the sky, and he lives in like a broken plane, like the presidential building. That even like compared to everything else, I think it's pretty bland, but that's saying quite a lot because it's very, I don't know what the word would be. It's very bright, very colorful.
In a way, like, I agree with you, by the way. For me, what I would consider the second half of the Sonic OVA seems like much darker than the first part, and I believe it's the emphasis on that post-apocalyptic presence.
Definitely. I think they do like a good enough job to like offset the tone a bit, like especially that scene where the metal Eggman is like shitting on them while they run down the highway. And like design wise, there's not really too much we can say. I guess we've like already kind of ran that a bit dry. What we can move on to is the story, because I guess the story doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense, but it's like very messy.
So I'm guessing it's like a common trope in anime in general. But like, you know those moments where an anime protagonist gets attached to a random character that was introduced 5 minutes ago, and like suddenly that character dies and they become emotional for them. I feel like it's kind of the same here in the Sonic OVA when, you know, Sonic was battling it out with his robotic counterpart. Because when he manages to defeat him, his robotic counterpart is close to the lava, and Sonic, you know, goes down to save him. But it pushes his hand away, and it's like, there can only be one Sonic. And like Sonic is upset by this. And I'm just wondering, like, why? That's your robotic counterpart. Isn't that creepy? That the fact that you have a counterpart, you have the exact version of yourself, maybe even a bit better considering it's made out of metal, who's just like, who tries to kill you simultaneously. It just feels a bit off to me, especially.
Definitely. The only like headcanon way I could think of that is that like, because they're connected, it's like seeing himself die literally. So he's seeing himself from Metal Sonic's perspective literally. So he's seeing himself die, I guess. I don't know. And then he's also seeing himself look at himself, which, ugh.
Yeah, it's a very dark interpretation, actually.
But I still think it's a very messy scene.
Yeah, that's my biggest complaint I have about the story thus far. Everything else, it's oh yeah, I guess Eggman's like plot could have been a bit better. Going to the presidential palace and then somehow convincing Sonic and Tails to go to his lair. Like, just it worked eventually, right? But it just didn't make sense to do that, right? It's not, considering Eggman is like a genius, maniacal inventor, overarching antagonist of the whole series, it doesn't make sense for him to be doing that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, the plan was like super complicated for no reason.
Yeah.
If he wanted to hold the world hostage, he should have just like threatened to blow up the thing anyway, instead of like going to the president's house and then convincing Sonic to get there and then going all the way down and fighting Sonic in a giant robot pig thing. He didn't even really need to make Metal Sonic for that. If he wanted to do anything to like catch Sonic, he could have just gone to the ice place, threatened to blow the thing up, and then caught him while he was there, had Metal Sonic activate, and then go after him.
Other than that, I really, really, really liked the story. It was enjoyable. One thing that ticked me off, though, in particular, was how the owl was called Old Man, even though he's clearly not an old man. He's an owl. He's an old owl, not an old man. For crying out loud, Sega.
No, they're not race. It's racism to consider him anything else, Alan. Everyone in that world is equal. Furries are equal.
Fair. That's fair. One of the last things I want to say, like, about the animation as well, is that while I was watching it, I have a tendency of pausing just to take... If I see like a frame that's a bit off, I instantly pause, scroll back, and take a look at it. And there's a particular frame when Sonic is on the conveyor belt trying to reach the button to shut down Eggman's bomb. I was watching the animation on my phone, so I screenshotted it. And let me just scroll past all the photographs of Turkey. The frame where Sonic is on the conveyor belt, a particular thing, I don't even know what it is. It looks like a penis.
I thought you were gonna say that. I didn't. I had a feeling you were gonna say that. I was gonna say, oh yeah, his dick just falls out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a penis. That's definitely
that
an
is
Eggman
a
penis.
When I noticed it, I was like, wait a minute, that's not like they even made the head, right? Those two things on the side are balls. There's a shaft, and then there's a line dividing between the shaft and the head. And like, if you look at the very tip, it's flat, right? Just like an actual penis.
Oh my god.
Do we have to censor this for our episode?
No, I'm showing this. I'm showing this in the video.
Oh my gosh, dude.
But you know what that means? You know what that means?
What?
He pissed on Sonic to capture him.
Oh yeah, the Sonic OVA predicted the pissings before Snapcube did it.
Before Eggman pissed on the moon, he pissed on Sonic.
Yeah. What the heck?
This is where like all the Sonic furry fetish stuff came from.
Yeah, exactly. This is the holy grail of all the Sonic furry porn. Oh, what I remember, Nick, is that you before I watched this, you recommended. Well, like you told me to watch this, and like you specifically said there's a part near the end that like you'll see, right? And I'm assuming it's the scene where like Robo Sonic looks underneath the cat lady's skirt.
It was not. It was when they start fighting. It's the line that they say. It's really fucking stupid.
Oh my gosh.
I love that shit.
It's so cringy. Oh my gosh.
I love it. It's so stupid. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
That's like a very common thing in the Japanese animated stuff that gets like localized into English. There's another Sonic show that happens like 5 or 6 years later, like an actual Sonic anime. They have so many of those stupid lines. It is insane.
Honestly, like before I watched the OVA and you mentioned the part near the end, I was thinking like there's a GIF online, right? I'm gonna post it on Discord right now. A friend of mine posted it to me like last year, and my initial thought was that near the end they were gonna show this particular scene. The GIF itself is called "Hop on
Oh
Bed
my
Wars."
god.
What I thought was gonna be this scene near the end.
Oh my god. Oh. You know what that reminded me of?
Yeah, what's up?
I'm gonna send you something. It just reminded me of that.
Oh, I need to spray myself with holy water after this.
I think we're done talking about the movie. It's whatever. If you want to watch it, watch it. I don't even know what else to talk about with this movie. I like the characters. I like that Sonic is a dickhead. Tails is annoying. Knuckles is weird. Sarah is stupid. This is the thing we did.
Oh, let me do the sex addict. Okay. I gotta chill out. Oh wow, that image of Eggman in his lovely bikini, it makes me a sex addict.